Hi book lovers, it's Jenny at Julia Baby Jen, and this is my April recommendations. Okay, so the April recommendations topic for this month is big books. So books over 500 pages. Monthly recommendations is a Goodreads group set up by Trina from Between Chapters and Kanya Reads. I think that's right. I'm not for sure, but I will link their channels below and the Goodreads group. And basically every month they have a new topic, and then you can use that topic to create your own video or blog post or whatever you do for your social media and give some recommendations to your viewers or readers. So it's really fun. I really enjoy doing this monthly topic every month. It's really fun. So this month is big books, which I'm all about, and it's perfect timing because it's Tome Topple right now. They didn't plan that, but it worked out really well. So yeah, I'm just going to share some of my favorite big books and why I like them. I'm not going to get real big on synopsis on all these because a lot of these, if you don't know, haven't heard of these by now, I don't know where you are or where you've been. But I will leave the links to all the books down below on Goodreads so you can read the synopsis more fully if you want to know more about what it's about. I'm just going to talk generally why I like it. Alright, I'm going to start with one of my favorites, The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I absolutely love this book. This is actually a collector's edition I got from Barnes & Noble a few years ago. And this is 550 pages, so this is a perfect big book read. This book, I just love it so much. First of all, I love the writing style. It's very different. It took a little while to get into, but once I did, I just was so sucked into this story. The characters just jump off the page. It's really a character-driven story, and I really enjoyed that. And then I also am a big fan of historical fiction, so to add the backdrop of Nazi Germany behind it, and the horrors and the just the daily life that would have been like, it's interesting to read a book that takes place during World War II in Nazi Germany. I don't think enough of us really think about what that would have been like for ordinary people living there who probably would have nothing to do with the war at all, but were sucked into it anyway and had to go along or they get arrested. So I feel like the backdrop was wonderful. The characters were amazing. The writing was fantastic. It's narrated by Death. It's just a beautiful book. It's all kinds of feels. It's just a beautiful read, and I want to reread it soon, hopefully. I was thinking about rereading it for Tome Topple, but I already had a huge list, so another time I'll reread it. But yeah, I just adore The Book Thief. I have a couple of books that I think would be really good if you've never read big books or you're not really sure if you want to read big books. You stick to smaller books maybe, and I think these would be great starter big books for people who either don't really like big books normally or are afraid to try them. I feel like just about anybody would like these, and that is Illuminae and Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the start of a series. There will be a third book, I think, this year. And these are big books. Illuminae is 599 pages, and Gemina is 659 pages. These are really awesome. If you hadn't heard how these have been written, but they're written in a different format, which is what makes them quicker reads than normal, because it's all like texts and emails and documents and all kinds of things like that. So I feel like they read really quickly because once you get into that, it's just flipping the pages so fast. And some pages are just artwork and it's just a really interesting story. You never know what's going to happen next in these. I mean, it just goes totally crazy all the time. And Illuminae starts off with a small planet being bombed and people are trying to escape. So it starts right in the middle of the action and never stops. It's action-packed. It moves really fast. And I just feel like, and the characters are amazing. And there's so much a sense of danger. I just feel like these are really great books for just about anybody, even if you're not sure if you like sci-fi, because I think these would be great introduction to sci-fi. They just move really fast and are really entertaining. And even though they're honking big books, they just read really fast. I mean, I flew through both of these books. So, and most people I know, even people who are not really sure about them, end up really loving them. So, But yeah, I definitely recommend these books, especially if you're not sure you want to read big books. And if you haven't read these, I would definitely suggest these for Tome Topple because you'll fly through them. Next, I have the last 3 books in the Throne of Glass series. Of course, the whole Throne of Glass series, but these are the only ones that are over 500 pages. So we have Heir of Fire, which is the 3rd book in the series, and it is 562 pages. Then we have Queen of Shadows, which is the 4th book in the series, and it is 645 pages. And then we have Empire Storms, which is the 5th book and the most recent book in the series, and it is 689 pages. So these books are honking big books, but they are amazing fantasy. And Throne of Glass changes so much over the course of the story that if you haven't read these, I can't really talk about them too much without giving everything away. But it's really rich fantasy with rich characters, lots of adventure and action. You never know what's going to happen next. Sarah J. Maas is pretty ruthless with her characters. She puts them through a lot, but it's very entertaining and great fantasy. If you love epic fantasy and you like a good character story arc, because I feel like several of these characters have amazing story arcs, not just Selena, the main character, but several other ones too. There are some amazing characters in there here. I have heard that a lot of people aren't big fans of Selena. I shouldn't say a lot, but I've heard people say that they're not a big fan of Selena. They don't like her all that much, but they like the story anyway because of everything else it offers, and there's so many other great characters in it that they love as well. I personally love Selena. I think she's a great character. I don't always love her, and she's very flawed, but that's why I love her as a character, because I feel like the flaws really speak to what she's been through in her past, and I feel like yeah, it's just, she's a very deep character. There's a lot of layers to her, and if you take her at face value, you think of her as a shallow, arrogant, vain girl who doesn't care about other people. But once you get past that layer, you learn a lot more about her, and she's way deeper than that. And she basically uses her vanity and clothing as shopping therapy to deal with everything else that's gone wrong in her life, and there's been a lot. But yeah, these are just wonderful, entertaining. These are just great fantasy stories, really entertaining, really great reads. These are definitely great big books. And next I have Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. Really, both the other 2 books in the series too, and I think they're over 500 pages, or they're very close. If they're not, this one is 570 pages, at least the paperback is. I think it's the same as the hardback. So this is the 3rd book in Infernal Devices, and of course you know about Shadowhunters, but what I love, this is my favorite Cassandra Clare series. I love the historical factor in London. The characters in this are just amazing. I love these characters so much. So basically we have kind of a love triangle that's happened throughout the whole story, and this is where it all finally ends. Not only the war, but I feel like I was more invested in the characters in the love triangle than I was in what was going on with the Shadowhunter stuff, as far as, you know, danger and all that. I was into that too, and it was very entertaining, this book. But this book is just beautifully written. It's like poetry. It's so beautiful. So many feels throughout this entire thing, especially the end. It's one of the best endings I've ever read. I absolutely loved it. And it was one of the few love triangles that makes complete sense to me, and there's a reason it's there, and you love all 3 characters so much, and you just want them all to be happy and be with each other no matter what. I mean, it's just an amazing story. I love this. So if you love good historical fiction with good fantasy, this is wonderful. If you love wonderful characters with great story arcs, yeah, of course you have to start with the other 2, but it's so worth it to get through to this book. This book is one of my favorites of all time. I absolutely love it. Then I have Winter by the Lunar Chronicle, or Winter by Marissa Meyer. This is the last book in the Lunar Chronicles. And this is a honker. This is 823 pages, although it reads really fast. And I just love the end papers to this book with all the characters. So this is another story that's wonderful sci-fi, great plot, but also character driven. You fall in love with these characters. This is sort of the retelling of Snow White. Each book is a different retelling. This is, I guess I could have put Cress in here too. I think Cress is over 500 pages too. But this series is amazing. If you haven't read it yet, I don't know why, but Winter is one of my favorites. I absolutely love it. I love how the characters all come together in the end. I love the whole story. I just think it's a great ending. And yeah, I just love this series. Great sci-fi, wonderful retellings, very original kind of retellings, and just really entertaining to read. And more fantasy, I have Eragon and Eldest by Christopher Paolini. I have not read the third and fourth book in this series yet, so I can't really recommend them. But this is the first and second book in this series that is really awesome. Eragon is really close. It's 497 pages, so I count it, but barely. It's close enough. If you add in the glossary, it's over 500 pages, so I guess you could cheat on that. Eldest is really big, and it is 600. Eldest is 677 pages. So, this series is about dragons. It's about a world where dragons used to prosper with their owners, their riders, and they were basically a specific race. There's magic that that bonds the rider to their dragon, and it was a wonderful land and everything. Well, one rider went bad and killed everything, killed all the dragons except the ones that were loyal to him, and so now the world is suffering under his rule. There's very little magic left in the world. No one even knows anything about it anymore, and there's no dragons. This young boy who lives out in the middle of nowhere in some little village on a farm one day discovers a dragon's egg, and it hatches and bonds to him. So this is his adventure. His name is Eragon, and he has this wonderful dragon. And so it's a story about him learning the ways of the dragon riders again and protecting the kingdom and playing his part in this. So it goes completely, I mean, it's such a wonderful world, great world building. There's fairies and elves and trolls and all kinds of magical creatures and things going on. So it's just a wonderful fantasy series. These aren't quick reads. They're very deep reads. There's a lot to read, but it's so good, so entertaining. I love it. This is one of the very first big fantasies I ever read, and they're just really good. I just really like these books. Next, I have Days of Blood and Starlight and Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. Laini Taylor is one of my favorite authors ever. Her writing is beautiful. Her characters are quirky and original. Her stories are original, and it's just really entertaining, really unique, really fun reads. I love things that are outside the box, so to speak, and her books definitely are. And I just love these so much. They're so dark, such dark fantasy, but they're so beautiful. So the first book is actually Daughter of Smoke and Bone, which I don't believe is over 500 pages. I don't own it, so I don't know for sure. This one is 513. This is the second book. This one is so dark. Very, very dark, but so good. And Dreams of Gods and Monsters is 613 pages. This book is actually signed. I'll show off my signed copy here. There's my signed copy. Can you see? And then this little note here is actually her daughter drew that. Isn't that cute? Her little, I think she was 3 or 4. I didn't actually get to meet her. My friend Karen did, who bought me this book and gave it and had her sign it and gave it to me for my birthday. So that was so nice of her. But yeah, this is just an amazing series. If you love poetic writing, original characters, quirkiness, dark fantasy, these are it. These are so good. These are some of the best fantasy I've ever read. Yeah, YA or otherwise, they're just so good. I definitely recommend these. Next, I have the Heroes of Olympus series by Riordan. A lot of Rick Riordan books I would recommend. A lot of them are over 500 pages. These all are. I'm not going to go through and say how many pages each of these are, but we have The Lost Hero, The Son of Neptune, The Mark of Athena, The House of Hades, which is my favorite in the series, and The Blood of Olympus. So this is a story following Percy Jackson and a few of his friends and then some new characters. It's basically a group of 7 demigods who have to team up together. They have all different stories, but they have to team up together to save the world again. There's another prophecy going on with them. And they start out as enemies, and they eventually team up to do so. So it's just a really great story. The entire series is. Each one is full of action and adventure. Everything ties up so well. Every character has their role to play. I just love the mythology and then the action and then how everything ties together. Rick Riordan does such a great job of making it entertaining and fun, but tying things up and making it, I mean, it's fun and funny and adventurous, but also dark at times. He does a really good job of balancing that light and dark and making it fun and entertaining and funny, and then also having lots of dark moments with lots of danger. And I love how he balances that out. So any of his books I recommend, but I just finished these not long ago, and I really do love this series. Then I have The Diviners by Libba Bray. This is the first book in a series, and the second book, Lair of Dreams, is out, which is behind me, I think. Somewhere. Where is it? Lair of Dreams. Oh, it's way over there, so you can't quite see it. So basically, this is, and I haven't finished Lair of Dreams yet, that's why I can't recommend it. So this one's 578 pages, and what I love about this is the creepiness factor is off the charts. It's scary. It is really scary. There's a huge murder mystery going on with this, and it is freaky. And then the paranormal aspects to this are really original and interesting. And then my next favorite thing about this is the main character, Evie, who is just awesome. I love her so much. She's one of my favorite characters ever. She is spunky and entertaining and fun and just such a wonderful character. And there's a lot of other characters in here I really love as well. And then the other thing I really love about this is the setting. It takes place in 1920s New York, and it is so authentic to the setting, to the people there. You get a ton of what it would have been like to live there at that time and the pop culture of the time, and it's just so wonderful. There's just so many great things about this story. It reads so quickly. It's just a wonderful read. I absolutely just adore this book. And I have one more recommend for you, and that is Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. This is my collector's edition copy. I don't know where my regular hardcover is. This is not a first edition, but it's one of the older editions of the book that my mom found for me. It no longer has the dust jacket. And it's actually in pretty decent shape considering how old it is, and obviously it was very well read. So, Gone with the Wind. The reason I love this story is Scarlett O'Hara, #1. She's like the world's first feminist and so ahead of her time, and so didn't fit in with her people, and she was always an outcast and always stood out. She is very flawed. She has a lot of things wrong with her, but that just makes her more endearing to me. And I do feel like in a lot of ways she does learn as she goes along, but she never is more or less than who she is, and she never really apologizes for that. And I really love that. Her independent, resourceful nature really comes through, and that's what I said, which is the world's first feminist. She really took matters in her own hands and took care of things. Sometimes her methods were less to be desired, but the actual reasons behind them were always noble. She was at times very selfish, but most of the time she wasn't as selfish as what people seem to think. And I just love her can-do spirit, and yeah, she's just a really great character. And then, of course, Rhett Butler is a wonderful rake kind of a character. I really love him too. They're kind of two peas in a pod, and then the setting is interesting. I love historical settings, and this takes place over the course of the Civil War, pretty much right before the Civil War starts, and then about 10 years after. It covers about a 10-year period. Maybe it's a 12-year period, but it takes place in the South, which, you know, I've never lived there. I've never been there. I don't know that much about it. So it's interesting. Now, obviously, you always have to take this story with a grain of salt because it's written by a Southerner. So she makes the South sound wonderful and beautiful. And you know, it's a civilization that died, and which it is. I don't think it necessarily should have kept going because it wasn't a very moral civilization. But you have to look at it with a grain of salt that way. But it's still interesting to read about the time period and what it would have been like to live there and what these people thought. You know, obviously they were a little brainwashed into thinking that everything was hunky-dory, and it wasn't. But I do think it's interesting to see things from their point of view. And it will make you look at things a little differently, I think, as well, because it's not like the North was all that moral either. They really weren't. They came across that way in the end, but they really weren't either. War was just bad. It was bad war, but it's really entertaining to read. It's just wonderful. There's a lot of factual information about the war, which I learned a lot about Civil War. After I read this in 8th grade, we were studying the Civil War in 8th grade history, and I aced every single quiz and test because I knew it all after reading this book. There's a lot of information about the actual historical aspects of it, the wars and how the battles and all that too. So yeah, I just love this book. It's wonderful, wonderful drama, romance, period history, just all of that. So yeah, I just think it's a wonderful read. And the movie is really good too. I definitely recommend watching the movie if you can. And those are my April recommendations, my big book recommendations. Leave me comments below on what some of your favorite big books are, or if you want to talk about any of these books, I'd love to do that. I hope everyone has a good day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.